I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone now, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home.
And welcome back to Smite Draft League. Today, we're doing season 2. We've got Sunbreakers versus Oathkeepers. We got a great set coming up. Hope you enjoy it. I'm Cosmic Warrior, joined by KingFsher, starting picks and bans. Take us away, Fisher. How you feeling?
I mean, feeling pretty good. I do like seeing the Tiamat first ban. Don't get me wrong. It's not because I don't like Tiamat. Quite the opposite. I think she's an extremely fun goddess to play, really versatile too. But I'm glad to see teams kind of finally respect it. There's been a lot of Merlin bans in mid without seeing the Tiamat as well. Merlin definitely deserves one, but good to see the dragon herself up on the ban list.
We've definitely seen Tiamat run absolute games, run sets, be completely strong, and one of the biggest win cons of certain teams. Very, very strong in the mid lane. One of the strongest gods can definitely match up a Merlin, can beat a Merlin. I've seen it plenty of times. And on the opposite side, we have the Ao Kwang. Not surprised to see it at all. One of the strongest junglers right now. Incredible, incredible 100 to 0, 1v1 potential. These magic dealers, man, these mages, they're too strong.
They really are. And I mean, speaking of magic dealers, I agree they're in a really good spot right now, but it's a little strange, I think, seeing the Yu Huang ban. I don't completely hate it. I'd imagine the kind of sentiment there from Oathkeepers is that they want Merlin first pick. So kind of taking out all the competition. Yu Huang, definitely good mage. Not nearly to the point that something like a Merlin or a Scylla is, so I have to imagine there's some deeper strategy going on there.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite as value him as high as Merlin, but that's not to say that Yu Huang can't be dishing out damage in all states of the game. I mean, if you're able to hit those dueling dragons, he can be an absolute menace. We saw it in the SPL play-ins tournament. The likes of Benny Q just absolutely owning, soloing people left and right. Great potential, but to your credit, definitely more common to see the Merlin band, Scylla, even some mages that I think have been a little bit underrated, like Morgan Le Fay. But yeah, we're definitely going to see how these guys decide to what they decided to pick up in the mid lane instead of this, and how they decide to go from there.
It's definitely gonna be interesting, and I do think it's worth mentioning. It could be wrong. I don't have the transaction sheet in front of me, but iTerminatorr, I believe, is a newcomer to this Oathkeeper squad. We saw them really, really go off at the end of season one last year. Some incredible solo gameplay with stuff like the Achilles, who I think, for all we're talking about mages, is a very underrated solo laner this year. Has looked good every time we've seen him. But they're gonna go to Nola on first pick. I'm not sure if this pick happened 2 weeks ago. I would love it, but with the recent ring nerfs, I don't know if it's really as strong of a pick to merit being first overall.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, Oleron's still going to be very strong. Those items, while being nerfed, still viable. Certainly, big, impactful team fight ultimate that can definitely be very good in this dual lane. That being said, I think there are a little bit stronger people. Rama comes to mind, Chiron, even Ishtar. But if you're just still wanting to go with that magic damage for whatever reason, with whatever ideas you have in your comp, it's definitely a viable option. And on the other side, we see the Merlin and the Susano. Merlin, very, very, exactly what we've been mentioning previously when we're talking about the bands.
Definitely has been, and I really would have loved to see that on the order side. Because, I mean, when we look at these two, Susano and Merlin, not only are they two great picks, but they're gods that have really, really big hitting abilities. It's already going to be a hard team comp to get away from. That being said, picking up the Agni, I think, is a really good response. I mean, Merlin, probably the easiest god in the game right now to get those Tablet of Destiny stacks on, which I believe still should be the meta build for these mid laners. So picking something like the Agni with those big ults should really help you keep up in the middle lane, even if late game it's not quite as strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Agni just being able to just drop all those bombs, always have your ultimate up. Very, very strong, great team fight impact, you can definitely match the Merlins there. Anytime a Merlin ult is down Agni, just not too worried about the ult being down. We do see the Thor being locked in. I would like to see this in the jungle. Definitely a pick that has been high prioritized. We've seen recently in season 2, often getting banned in the first 3 bans. So I'm expecting to see that in the jungler. Jungle definitely capable of matching a Susanoo's pressure and damage, and definitely going to be a fight worth looking at.
It definitely is. I mean, for what it's worth, I do remember iTerminatorr playing a few Thor solo games, so it's not out of the question. I think I agree with you. I would rather see it in the jungle to kind of keep up with the pressure that Susanoo brings, but it's nice kind of to have that flex pick potential. And yeah, it's going to make bans a lot harder as we see Surtur taken off the board. And a Kokolin as well. I do definitely like that. I think solo laners right now are a much bigger problem than supports. That being said, Maui has to get picked or banned here. He's absolutely in an insane place right now. So if I'm this Chaos side team, I don't want to ban Maui. I definitely want to top pick that.
Yeah, Sunbreakers, definitely something that they're going to look for. I mean, we've seen Maui run games, making it very easy for your carries to set up and just dish out tons and tons of damage. Landfall is absolutely insane. Great lockdown with the ultimate, and just such an insane get out of jail free card with the Alua on his 2. Just an all around incredible character. Would be surprised if we don't see either team pick him up. We do see the bans finished out with 4 solo lane bans. Those are pretty much the ones you're looking to right now in this meta. Kokolin, Surtur, Guan Yu, and Hercules. And that doesn't include the Achilles that you had mentioned. One of them who can definitely be there. And the Hades as well, as we see getting locked in.
Yeah, the Hades lock-in, so that is going to confirm that it's going to be... Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's a Shiva
Should...
support. No, it's a Shiva support.
Okay. You know, I'm going to trust you on this one. I think for the first time ever. But
Am I ever wrong?
if that's true, I definitely should trust you more. But a Shiva support Hades solo, it's not my favorite. I don't think it's going to be bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's kind of an odd frontline pairing. You're really relying on the Oleron and Agni to kind of do a lot of work for themselves. Neither of these gods have great peel. That being said, Agni has a long dash, Oleron has the ultimate, so there's definitely freedom for this solo lane and the support to both get aggressive. It's going to be interesting. They're really going to need to pick their fights carefully.
Definitely. I think the Shiva isn't that bad in support. I think, the little knockup that you give and then pulling away the enemies from his team is, good enough to warrant a support pick. It was definitely played more when Shiva was a little bit meta. I feel like the biggest thing is that his ult is just a little bit lacking. Always has been following some of the nerfs after his initial release. But, maybe we'll see. Usually when you think of this, the physical supports, excuse me, you think the Horus, even the Hercules. Hercules obviously is banned away, and there we see it. The Achilles, definitely happy to see that, but that does mean there's no Maui on either team.
Yeah, definitely worth looking at into game 2. I mean, I guess we'll kind of see how it turns out in game 1. It's interesting team comps on both sides. Can't lie, I'm a little biased towards Chaos, so what are you thinking?
Sunbreakers definitely have a really strong team comp. Achilles just one of the best solo laners right now. Merlin is just Merlin, and enough said about that. Susanoo, incredible in the jungle. I think the only pick that I'm a little bit skeptical about is the Geb. I feel like he's a little bit lacking. He did actually just receive a buff, reducing the cooldown on his knockup. It's like kind of the only thing you have as far as damage that isn't your roll away, and of course his ultimate. But maybe we'll see some really solid shields able to counteract the Thor, potentially the Hades or the Agni stuns, or I don't think it would be much effective against the Oleron. But maybe we'll see some big gap shields come through.
We definitely should hope so. It's going to be a game of interesting interactions, but that being said, we won't wait any further, so we will see you back in game in match number 1 between Oathkeepers and Sunbreakers.
I could get drunk off the lights of the city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone now, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I'd always thought we would make it, but now you're gone. Baby, you're a ghost. I'm caught up in a landslide, mental on the low end. When I used to feel alive, now there's a hole in the city, can't feel shit. Where do I go? Cause I know you don't feel this. Can't catch a break for God's sakes. Feel like I'm waking up and I'm caught in the wake. Yeah, I know this is my funeral on parade. I did it to myself cause I always thought you would feel the same, and I know you don't. Drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone now, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. Let's hit the brakes. I'm pulling out the parachute, jumping out the plane. You had it all in front of you, nothing feels the same. It's crazy what love can do, even crazier when it's not coming back to you. You say you need space, so I gave you all the states. Every night a different place. Used to think we're getting closer, now we're drifting away. And all I can say is that I'm feeling wasted. I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone now, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I always thought we would make it. Now you don't.
And welcome back, Smite Draft Leagues fans, as we kick it off with game number 1, Oathkeepers versus the Sunbreakers in the Divine Vision. I have a question for you, Fisher. What sort of matchups are you looking at? You know, we have a very big difference in team compositions. We see a Shiva support one we don't see too often. So what are you looking for coming into this early transitioning into the mid to late game that is really going to stand out for you?
I mean, if we approach this from the side of Oathkeepers, I definitely think they have a lot of work to do in this early game. I think I mentioned it on the desk. It's an unorthodox draft. I don't exactly think it's a bad one, but when we look across to Sunbreakers, it reminds me of another set. I'm blanking on the team names right now. One team didn't look bad, but the other team just had so much going for it. It kind of rings true to me. I mean, Merlin, Ishtar, Achilles, Susano, Geb, they're 5 of the top picks in the game right now. So if I'm Oathkeepers, you have to do a lot to kind of mitigate this team, because once they get rolling, nothing on the map is going to stop it.
Yeah, it seems like they definitely have something to prove here, something to justify why they decided to go with this pick, but we're definitely seeing some early game pressure here in the dual lane as CACTUSARMS drops pretty low. Therealsylvanus frontlining very well, allowing Gunaholic to really get some damage, but a giant dog is lurking in the jungle. Doesn't look like he's spotted out yet. They're trying to back off, though. Ooh, beautiful dash in by Giant Dog. And Gunaholic drops very quickly. And they're not done yet. The Therealsylvanus trying to run away. It looks like that's what they're going to take. But in the mid lane, iTerminatorr answers back. As he is on the Thor, but he's not in the solo lane. We see him running this in the jungle. Picks up a response on a different side of the map.
Couple of kill trades really early on here. Love to see the aggression from both of these teams. That being said, don't love the Oleron going down early, especially into an Ishtar, because now KoalaMang gonna take over to level 5 a lot sooner than Gunaholic is. And those blades, they do a lot, specifically in the 1v1 that Oleron just can't deal with. Might not even be able to deal with the 2v2 as Shiva dropping low and low mana. Might have to be a really early back here from Sylvanus.
Yeah, we see a bit of a skirmish here around this mid-camp. But Giant Dog not quite having enough mana to do anything. But Evan stepped up, trying to get a little bit of a poke off, but nothing quite come of it. Both of them backing away here in the dual lanes. A little bit more even following a very nice gank, as you said. Unfortunate for your Oleron to die early on, someone you want to see getting a quick lead, able to get some key items online and be very impactful. That being said, these early kills don't necessarily determine the way in which team fights are going to go even within the next 10 to 20 minutes.
They definitely don't, and I do think it's worth mentioning before it gets too confusing. When we say Sylvanus, we're talking about the Shiva. Very kind of confusing username there, especially as the heat gets going. And it already is in this duo lane. Love seeing Ishar utilize those long autos to try and keep the Shiva, or sorry, no, that's the Oleron poked out. And I think we talked about this on the desk a tiny bit, but those ring nerfs for Oleron, he is going to hit his power spike much later than this Ishar is. It's really going to be a lane to keep an eye on. So I think if I'm a Giant Dog on this Uzano, I am ganking that Oleron early and often.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see the engage from Terminator and the ultimate forced out from Hades, or not forced out, used to try to pick up Rage more, but he is going to Fatal Strike away, and he'll be safe to live another day.
Love being safe to live another day. Now on the other side, gold buff is going to go to the ADC. Anthony would be very proud of that one. And now CACTUSARMS takes over to level 5 before the Ishar. Not quite used to seeing that in the duo lane, but Ishar does get level 5 as well. So already, I mean, there's a lot of kill pressure with that. I know we talked about on Enola and how they're kind of susceptible, but two really big, relatively easy to hit stuns in a duo lane, and only one set of beads for Oathkeepers. Now on the other side, Achilles does not have the execute. Not much kill pressure there, and I think Crunch knew it, so didn't expend the beads.
Yeah, definitely not too much to worry about with Fatal Strike being down. We see he does have the anti-heal starter item, Tainted Steel. Gonna be very nice since Ragemore is building into that Soul Eater. Definitely gonna limit that sustainability that he has and just his inherent sustainability on his too. But we see the dash in and the ultimate from Ishtar, Blades of Retribution, beats out by Gunaholic, and that's about all she wrote for now. Beats forced by Gunaholic. Here comes the real Sylvanus on a god that is really not Sylvanus, but Koala, well safe under her tower, gonna head off down. And we see a lot of people over here on the dual lane side, but it's not really much to gain. Can't go for a purple invade as the buff has already been dropped recently. So a little bit of a waste of time by Oathkeepers there.
Just a tiny bit is now 5.5 minutes into this game. There's already a small gold lead for the Sunbreakers, about 1,000 gold. Wouldn't really be too worried about that though. And the map stay already pretty even. Normally, I'd especially expect in that dual lane, they've had them push up to that tier 1 tower quite a bit. A little bit surprised to see both Bastions still full health on the left side of the map. And it's such a tiny thing in the context of the season that you can really look past it. But having those Bastions, it's pretty important. They do give some pretty good defense to that tower. And with the XP being a lot further than lane, like just getting any little bit, it's now trying to poke out the Oleron, but making another use of the Bastion, hiding behind it. I guess they really are shields. They don't just look like them, they work.
Yeah, definitely one thing I do when I'm just narrowly escaping, using them to escape some autos that otherwise might spell disaster. We see Sunbreakers just going for... Oh, hold that thought. Ooh. Blades of Retribution not off the mark. Beads from Koala to try to avoid the Oleron ult, but it being very well placed. Just not able to step out of it with the beads, but we see both ults coming out from this dual lane. Koala not stepping back, but here comes the real Sylvanus. Might make them regret that decision as the damage is coming through, but not quite enough. Koala able to dash out. Doesn't look like there's much follow-up anytime soon by the rest of the Oathkeepers. Oh, but here we see the ultimate. Oh, Anvil of Dawn lands onto Koala, who has no beads. We see the Typhoon coming out. Giant Dog stunned out. The double tap with tons of damage. CACTUSARMS, however, giving him a nice juicy shield, so no other deaths coming on the side of the Sunbreakers. Oathkeepers taking their W and leaving. Looks like they're going for a bit of a purple invade as Lieutenant Crunch dealing tons of damage to Ragemore. Fortunately, he already expended the ult, so he's not going to be quite able to finish that one off. Ragemore still with his ultimate in hand. I'm sure he wasn't too scared despite the way that health bar looked. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Terminator.
Oh,
He's getting punished for this invade. He's able to dash. Oh, the 3! The beautiful 3, the Typhoon. Or, I can't remember the name of that ability, man. He goes right onto him despite that really long dash away. Not quite able to do anything up, even with the 20% cooldown reduction. His abilities not quite online to follow up that really smart play.
really unfortunate.
Jetstream, that's the name. Thank you. Thank you.
Imagine, yeah. If it makes you feel better, I
Don't
completely
speak.
forgot
Yeah.
it too.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say something mean.
No, I would never. I do think though, Terminator really lucky there that the actual Typhoon wasn't up. I think if Susanoo has that ult earlier, that's 100% a kill onto that Thor. Had the blink, but no bead. So really, pretty hard to get out of that ability combo once it starts. And over here in the left lane, Shiva just kind of holding the minions hostage. The Olaron is having a little bit of a tough time, not necessarily in XP, still cut up pretty much the same in build path as well. But I mean, Gunaholic just can't afford to really step out of the tower radius in this lane. CACTUSARMS rotating over, low on mana and health is Therealsylvanus, but gets a back off, so Geb just a little bit bored, but stretching the legs out nonetheless.
Yeah, Gunaholic seems to be having a bit of a rough time, as you had mentioned. Koala shutting down these bashes. But here comes Terminator. Not quite happy with the way this is going. Wall, unfortunately, not quite on the mark. Gunaholic able to tick over to level 9, but on the opposite side, Ragemore drops Lieutenant Crunch, executes him, gets it right back up, uses it on the wave. Great solo kill by Ragemore. It's definitely been very back and forth by both solo laners here. We've seen Lieutenant Crunch nearly killing Ragemore, and Ragemore finally able to answer back with a Fatal Strike kill. Great play by Rage.
Definitely is. The Achilles off to a pretty good start in lane against the Hades. And now Hades did build Book of Thoth first item, not really into lifesteal. I mean, last season, I would think it's uncommon. We saw Mage solo laners really liked their lifesteal, in particular, kind of the Pythagoras piece. But building into Book of Thoth and pretty much every magical character in the game, it's just meta right now. It's way too good. The only thing that concerns me, and I think I talk about this every time we have a Hades solo, or even Assassin solos for the most part, tanks are important in this season as Giant Dog is learning as he takes a substantial bit of damage. Late bead's not really required, but better safe than sorry.
Yeah, a bit of a panic there as he took quite a bit of damage from that Agni bomb very far away, and that is the beauty of Agni just being an absolute artillery cannon sitting in the back line and just pumping tons and tons of damage. And I think that, it's a weird front line, I'll give you that. Hades Shiva, definitely weird, but it's either going to work and Agni is going to get tons and tons of value, or they're just going to struggle a little bit, and he's really not going to be able to do what you really want to do with Agni. And as I said, let's just sort of sit in the back line and launch your bombs away. So it's definitely going to be interesting. It's fairly common to see Hades just going full damage, Book of Thoth into the Bancroft's Claw. And I think it can work even with one tank, especially with a tank like Shiva who can really frontline very well and sort of be that solo tank with the Hades and just really be there when Agni kind of needs it to, and when Agni wants to get as much value as he can.
Definitely do like getting value out of the Agni, now stacking the Tablet of Destiny, same as the Merlin. And I think in a few sets we've seen some mages, especially more passive ones, struggle with kind of getting those stacks online. So if I'm BakeddGoods and Evan on the other side, I'd expect both these mages to be going for a lot of poke. It's almost got like a reverse psychology effect. I'm almost positive that's not the right thing to say. But where some of the junglers and supports, where normally we see them hover around mid, would want to stay away, kind of keep the enemy mid laners a little bit behind build-wise. Not a bad strategy, would give more XP to your own mid laner as well. But it's a 2-level lead for the Shiva support. Not exactly unexpected, but definitely welcome.
Yeah, Shiva definitely has been getting around a lot, rotating into the dual lanes because Gunaholic has been struggling a little bit and just naturally stripping away a little bit of the XP, giving it to himself. That being said, you're not hurting Olaron too much. Gunaholic not leveled down at all. Okay, now he just ticked over to a level down, but you know he's got a whole wave there that he's gonna need to take, so it's really not that big of a deal. BakeddGoods though, in a little bit over his head it seems, as the Geb ultimate comes out, but CACTUSARMS is the one who drops quickly as Terminator burst out the damage there. Beautiful wall placed there, and it seemed like a Giant Dog was just a little bit hesitant to go on to BakedGoods when it seemed like an otherwise fairly solid engagement opportunity. And now BakedGoods just dashing away, not too worried. Giant Dog unfortunately missed the opportunity.
Definitely did, and I gotta say, I was hoping for a little bit more aggression out of Oathkeepers this early, and there it is, as they do get the first Gold Fury of the game. 13 minutes in, it's gonna give them, should give them at least a slight gold advantage, nothing too major, but I think we've already talked about the dangers that this Sunbreakers team composition has, so any slight lead you can get, you're really gonna need it as we approach late game. Now that there's a little bit of a break in action, the build that the Shiva has gone, I think is really smart. Building like you would in solo with that pretty heavy mitigation build with the Warding Sigil, his ultimate expended by Hades to get a little bit of lifesteal, get out of that execute threshold. Great play from Lieutenant Crunch.
And Ragemore not scared at all, just keeps on poking underneath tower. Finally, Lieutenant Crunch said, "Oh, you want to be under tower? You're going to stay under tower." It seems like you forced out the beads there as well, so that's beads down. Definitely vulnerable to a gank from Terminator if that's who goes for it. Speaking of, Koala getting super low. Gunaholic pumping out the damage. Great ultimate, but the minion usage is not quite enough to save Koala. That is what you want to see right now if you're Gunaholic, despite being what seemed like in a bit of a rough spot, constantly under your tower. And now, ooh, the Sunder from Sylvanus. Cataclysm pulls out two, and he's rolling away. Typhoon not quite on the mark of CACTUSARMS, but now Gunaholic is vulnerable, forcing out the Tandandra by Shiva, and that's going to be all she wrote for that engagement. Really great play by Gunaholic, getting off that solo kill. You know, I thought there was going to be a little bit more to that. The real Sylvanus not even done yet, but yeah, that was a fairly clean engagement by Oathkeepers. Sunbreakers trying to answer back, but not quite able to mitigate their losses too much.
And I gotta say, I think it's something I talk about a lot when we see healers, not necessarily with the Fabulous Hoops like last season, but nonetheless, I would love to see the Shiva pick up something like the Lotus Sickle or maybe even Catechus Club, I think is a new item on the tanks. Something like that to just kind of help this team and their healing. I think Sylvanus has done a real good job for a warrior support, staying near the backline as Thor staying near the enemy backline. CACTUSARMS is gonna fall, and not far behind is gonna be Evan. This, oh, maybe escapes?
Yeah, it seems like that Agony Bomb was just off the mark. Evan's still dropping very low. They're not scared of that tier 2. They're just in BakedGoods even tanking that tower for a little bit. Beads forced though, and here comes Ragemore. BakedGoods drops under threshold, or excuse me, not BakedGoods. It was Terminator who dropped under threshold. Now Giant Dog chasing, but oh no! Typhoons right as his hammer comes back up. Terminator not afraid anymore. But Lieutenant Crutch, Giant Dog is here. Doesn't have Typhoon. They realize they're not going to be able to get very much out of it. The fully stacked Book of Thoth online, and the Bancroft decide to just take it easy, go for the Pyromancer, and sort of get any objective that they really can at this point.
Definitely smart getting those objectives. I always think golden XP over kills, definitely the way to go, but I think I do say that a pretty big amount. At some point, getting the kills, getting a little bit of aggression can help you as well, and Oathkeepers are managing this game really well, and I love seeing the aggression, especially out of iTerminatorr in this jungle. Kind of used to Susano being the assassin that sets the pace, but this Thor has done a really good job on the engages. Obviously fell a little bit short on the Agni one last time. I don't think through any fault of their own. But when we look across the map here, is there anything, while we have a little bit of a break before this Oni Fury starts, is there anything that you think Sunbreakers can be doing differently on this map? kind of feels like they're behind in the map state a little bit. Might have to wait, though, as Sunbreakers are showing up to contest this Oni Fury.
Yeah, we see Terminator in the backline taking tons of damage. Anvil down force. No, but it's not getting off soon enough. Giant Dog shuts him down with Typhoon. And now Oathkeepers are on the retreat on the back foot. Tandava forced by Sylvanus. And Gunaholic uses his ultimate beads as well. And now Sylvanus under the threshold of, but Lieutenant Crunch in the backline. And Evan finishes him off himself. But he trades out his own life. And now Ragemore 1v3ing practically, and he's not afraid at all. Those health bars are dropping, and here's the rest of the team. A Giant Dog pulls in Sylvanus. Evan picks up Gunaholic, and now Ragemore finishes off Sylvanus. This has been a clean and dry fight by Sunbreakers, losing 1 for 4, and now they're going for the Oni Fury.
Definitely a smart job, as now Sunbreakers should get this Oni Fury pretty uncontested. Only one of the areas that we're going for the end of
they know it. They see him now.
Oh, perfectly played by Sunbreakers. Uh-oh. Ooh, I don't know about this.
Oh, yeah. You can't be doing that into the Gab. The stun comes out. Double tap. Not quite able to finish him off. A nice chunk of health given by the Gab. Not quite able to finish him off. But Terminator is still not afraid. He's just going to be in. He's trying to pump out that damage, maybe finish off Merlin's a little bit low, but ultimately preventing this Oni Fury from happening at all, as the rest of his team is able to show up. Honestly, very well played by Terminator.
Super well played, indeed. I admit it, I got really nervous when we saw that aggressive ult in. Now they're going to be the ones reaggressing back onto the Oni Fury. I definitely like this. If I'm Susano, I'm getting ready to use this Typhoon. It's great for disrupting the team, especially on the fight after, but instead, Ragemore diving deep. They're forcing Oathkeepers back. I like this non-aggression from Oathkeepers, but I kind of want to penalize them. They might be stepping too far up.
Lieutenant Crunch.
Lieutenant Crunch in trouble.
Yeah, able to dash away, though. Kept that up, but Ragemore once more, forcing them back on the tier 1. Neither team really able to commit fully to this Oni Fury, but neither team stepping away completely. Sunbreakers now deciding to go for it. Merlin in that fire stance is going to be dealing the damage, limits his offensive capabilities, which is going to be important since they're contesting so heavily, and might go down before Anvil of Dawn's able to come in. Hits no one. CACTUSARMS low, but Terminator not quite able to finish the job as he gets shut down by Evan, and they secure the Oni Fury. But here comes Ragemore, still in the backline despite it all. Typhoon comes out, hits 2, knocks him up. Giant Dog, however, drops to half HP. Seems like Ragemore has just been in the backline of Oathkeepers this entire time and is just so unconcerned. His health bar not even looking that bad. Great plays by Ragemore, just zoning them away so excellently, pumping out tons of damage as well, doing over 2,000 more than the next highest, which is Agni, who's been absolutely dropping bombs on the enemies. And I mean, wow, what a just great play by Sunbreakers, especially Ragemore there, just not letting them step up, and they finally said, hey, we're going to do this Oni Fury. We're done.
It's definitely good to see, and I think we talked earlier about solos just being damage sponges in a different set. But I mean, this Achilles, the damage is coming into play for sure in these team fights, up to 16,000. Pretty well above anybody else in the game with the exception of Agni, which BakeddGoods, credit to him and his team. I think we worried about the team comps, but the Agni has not been the problem. Been getting off plenty of damage. But now, I'd imagine the Pyro is going to be a pretty quiet affair. I think normally late game it can be a little bit more contentious as the teams are already squaring up around Fire Giant. That being said, I don't know if it's worth for either of these teams to justify losing somebody to contest a Pyro, so I'd expect it to be down sometime in the next minute. They're both pretty close to the vicinity.
Sylvanus stepping up, it seems, not wanting them to just let them have it for free. Sunbreakers are stepping away just from the presence of Sylvanus alone, getting some wards off. BakeddGoods dashing away from CACTUSARMS, able to heal up a little bit with that. Hold that thought, as Terminator trying to take the 1v1 to the Koala, but you can't do that. She's got a fully stacked Rage. Asa, you're just not winning that fight. And now, with the player lead, Sunbreakers stepping back up to take this Pyros, Ragemore doing what he does best and just owning them. Sylvanus, unconcerned. Sunbreakers do get the secure off, but they're not done yet. As the front line of the Sunbreakers stepping up, Lieutenant Crunch trying to respond back. High levels. Oh, the knockouts by Sylvanus and the damage being pumped out by Evan. It's not looking great for the Oathkeepers. Oh, they blink Cataclysm, and now the Pillars of Agony in response. Gunaholic dropping low. Evan drops another, and that's 2 down on Oathkeepers. CACTUSARMS the only one member of the Sunbreakers to fall, but health bars are dropping on either side, and now that looks like it's gonna be it. 2-for-1 trade by the Sunbreakers, and they get the Pyromancer. And it all started with that 1v1 on the left side, preventing Terminator from having any impact in that fight. Maybe it's a different story, where there were definitely some times where if an Anvil of Dawn was in the air, then the whole fight changes. But they couldn't quite do it, and Terminator not happy with the way that fight has gone. Ragemore might be the lowest his health has gone since the laning phase, but still rather healthy, and that is going to be all she wrote.
Definitely should be, and I gotta say, having 2 runic bombs on the belt of the Geb is so funny to me, because a Guardian can literally walk into a tier 2 tower and just kind of solo it like it's no problem. So if I'm Sunbreakers now, you have a lot of aggression solely built up in that Geb's kit. You can really afford to kind of spread yourself out on the map, force the Oathkeepers back before this next Fire Giant fight starts. I think it'd probably be a good one, because like, if you're on the side of Sunbreakers here, are you looking to kind of do just that, spread the map out, apply pressure evenly, or are you kind of wanting to group as a team, try to push down one specific lane to really make your impact felt?
Sunbreakers have definitely shown that they're able to play really well. Terminator dashing away, not quite too worried. They're playing really well grouped up. I mean, at the very least, you're forcing the enemy team to group up, and that is where Merlin plays exceptionally well. And with the absolutely dominating front line that Ragemore is providing, it's definitely their strong suit. And they'll just able to get that gold free for free. Oathkeepers a little bit on the back foot here, so they're trying to step up. Okay, A gets forced from BakeddGoods. Incredible play by Sunbreakers. So I think, unfortunately, BakeddGoods might have fat fingered that Aegis. Not what you want to see if you're BakeddGoods.
You just faked me out so bad. I was like, am I missing a fight? Are you somewhere else on the map? Oh my gosh.
I just heard it and I was like, who was that? And I see the timers there.
Absolutely nothing escapes this one, as BakeddGoods having that Aegis down. Not very good on the flip
Ragemore's
side.
not taking damage. He's just not taking damage.
I mean, the mitigation build is strong. I think that's why I was so glad to see.
Oh, the beads! Incredible
Again?
beads! Both relics forced by BakeddGoods. This guy changes keybinds or something? What's going on there? What's going on?
I mean, it was so funny too, because right before that, I was gonna say, yeah, I might have fat fingered the Aegis, but at least you got beads. But they're gonna need beads.
Oh, beautiful!
Stunned by the Get.
Beautiful! And the Pillars of Agony catches Koala, but the Lieutenant Crunch just dies just as quickly. Gunaholic under threshold rage doesn't even need the execute. Terminator ults in, but is on low health himself, having to dash away. And now Ragemore again looking for more. BakeddGoods, however, able to dodge out the stun. And man, this has just been a complete, like, Rage just isn't scared. He's not even Phoenix in face of a support. 3v1 now. Okay, maybe he's bitten off more than he can chew. The Thorwall putting in that work. Ragemore dropping low, but he's just hit the whole way. He gets the execute and he's getting away. Don't let him. Tondavan needs to finish him off, but he's just too fast. But he's stuck. He's stuck behind the Sunder. Okay, Terminator decides to go die, and Ragemore just gets out. Terminator, why didn't you just commit onto the Achilles? That was a crime. This guy just committed a heist in front of your face. He got away with murder. What happened there?
I mean, not even really sure still. Ragemore just doing absolutely everything you should be doing as the Achilles. I think we've talked about it before being kind of an undervalued pick, and now we're seeing exactly why. The mitigation build just works so well with him, able to get extra damage if he's in the no armor stance, which I would assume Ragemore probably is. Definitely don't need the slight extra protection with this tanky build he's going. But now we're kind of reaching that state that we seem to do in a lot more games than not lately. 12,000 gold ahead are Sunbreakers, 27 minutes into this game. If you're Oathkeepers, what do you have to do to try to get back in this one?
It's definitely you just need to have an answer to this Achilles, which it's just so hard to, as you're saying. He's got a fully stacked prophetic cloak, the sigil of the old guard now fully online. It's Gunaholic gets caught out, and again, just the charge led by Ragemore. Oh yes, finally finished off by Koala. The Aegis, not quite enough, but we see the two-man anvil of Don. Koala gets low, but Terminator's lower exploded as Koala picks up 2 more. Finally, a member of the Sunbreakers goes down, but it's not enough. It's a 4v1. Koala has a triple kill, and now they're looking at the tier 2, and they're going to get the Phoenix as well.
They definitely are. Love seeing this play from the Sunbreakers. If they are able to kind of come through and get the Phoenix, they're now pouring into the room. Still have a Runic Bomb with the Susanna, so... oh, what? They're not... oh, I guess they were waiting for... no, not minion. Are minions in the Phoenix? No, they're not. What? I
what
don't
Phoenix?
really know what they were waiting for.
They weren't waiting for nothing. They just did it. And Ragemore was just behind the Phoenix with the tier 2 still up. He's got nothing to be afraid of. Can you blame him after that absolute, again, that murder he got away with on the BakeddGoods when he was behind the tier 2? Diving Phoenix 3v1, Sunders on him. He doesn't care, man. He is just in. There's no such thing as the brakes, only gas.
Definitely love seeing that win year ahead. Always a good sign from the team. Now they got an Oni Fury as
well. And now it's just Sunbreaker's game to lose. I mean, they still have 4 members with the Fire Giants.
well. They still do have... I guess it's not a pause. Never mind. That was pretty short. Apologies for that. But sorry, I think you were about to start. What were you saying?
I was just saying, this Fire Giant is coming back up. Sunbreaker's still with 4 members, having it definitely in a position to, set up if they need to get some wards down. But I mean, Ragemore can just be a walking ward, since there's no universe where he dies. And it's just so hard for Oathkeepers to deal with him, even with the Sunder from the Therealsylvanus. It seemed like it's a good pickup with how tanky this guy is, but it's just not doing enough. They just don't have the damage. It seems like they don't have the lockdown of this guy, and until something like that can happen, or unless Terminator is able to get a really, really solid Anvil of Dawn onto the back line, then this is just almost impossible for the Oathkeepers to deal with.
It definitely is. I think, like you said, they're with the gods they've picked. It's not really a defensive team in any part. That being said, they have a lot of utility they can use in order to make plays happen. It's not going to be in time for the Fire Giant. I don't love if Thor dives in there. I think... oh, what? Other side of the map. I thought I heard Anvil of Dawn, but I might have just heard Sylvanas dying. Shiva's a target. I don't know if they're going to be able to get away from this one.
Tandava forced out. One thing about it is it gives you quite a lot of CC immunity. They don't lose any members, but with EFG on the Sunbreakers, looking at this right side Phoenix, Ragemore stepping up as he has been the whole game, getting that extra little shield from the Sylvanas shield, and the heroism as we see Terminator in the sky. Sunbreaker's on the back foot now, perhaps just waiting for that ultimate to come down, and finally deciding to step back up.
This is going to come up indeed. Now the Phoenix is the target. Sunbreakers are playing this one slow, finally going to commit. I don't know if Oathkeepers can afford to defend this.
Oh,
Lieutenant
no.
Capshaw blinks in. Uh-oh, Shiva just dropping so low.
Fatal Strike off the marks. Therealsylvanus still falls to a giant dog. Gunaholic and BakeddGoods barely able to inch back into their fountain, and that's where they're going to have to stay or face the wrath of the Sunbreakers. Ragemore still very healthy, doesn't have the execute though. Actually losing quite a bit of HP with the ult from Gunaholic. Beads are forced out, but he's just healing right back up with that Soul Eater off the minions right now. It doesn't look like Sunbreakers are able to siege this Titan as Ragemore actually backs to the fountain. They're just going to not even go for the middle Phoenix. With just how strong it seems like the Sunbreakers are. Oh, no, wait, they're not done. They're not done. Hold my thought. Ragemore teleported back in, and they get that Phoenix. Some of the health bars are a little bit low. They definitely have the opportunity to back up, even take that left Phoenix that just spawned. But hold on, here comes Anvil of Dawn, but here comes Fatal Strike, able to use the geometry to his advantage. And in the back line, Terminator just dies anyway, and a Giant Dog finishes off Gunaholic. I mean, Oathkeepers can't find a break. They're just running around them in their own throne room, even when Terminator is trying to make a play on the backline. Just can't find that 1v1 potential against this Ishtar with Aussie and crit. It's just too hard. See you later, Lieutenant Crunch. It's just damage is so high. Lieutenant Crunch cannot match what Ragemore is doing, and ultimately Titan's going to be going down in a rather convincing fashion. I mean, that was an absolute clinic that Ragemore ran. He ran circles around them the entire game, and there was absolutely nothing that the Oathkeepers could do about it. But we'll tell you our thoughts a little bit more on the death segment. Catch us soon.
I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't.
And we're back. I hope you haven't missed us. That was an incredible game number 1. I need to know your thoughts, KingFsher. What did you just see?
In pretty much all aspects of the game, we saw Sunbreakers there just ahead and ahead and ahead, and I think we covered it on the desk and in the first few minutes. It wasn't necessarily a bad team comp from Oathkeepers. I don't know if it was necessarily bad execution either, but there's just way too much pressure from the enemy team. That being said, I thought they would clean it up a little bit quicker at the end, maybe a little bit of indecision or unconfident. I don't know if unconfidence is a word, but there's something there that can be taken advantage of if you're a member of the Oathkeepers.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed like, unfortunately, the Hades pick was just not quite able to do as much as the Achilles. Definitely something that needs to be taken in consideration in game number 2. Ragemore, I couldn't say his name enough because he was just running around them. I mean, it was insane. Definitely something needs to be changed as far as that solo lane matchup is concerned. You can't let Ragemore get to that position again, or you're just not going to be able to win the game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as big of a problem as every single person on the side of Sunbreakers was, Ragemore, like you said, wasn't taking any damage, was dishing out massive amounts of damage. It was really, really key to kind of breaking up the team formation of Oathkeepers. And when there's somebody like that running around the map, there's nothing you can do. I think we've talked about it a lot, but I mean, what are you going to do against an Achilles that's that far ahead? Realistically, nothing. But I think I'd like to see a different draft from the Oathkeepers. I think if this game goes later, if they don't get to such a large deficit to start, it may be a different story. That being said, you kind of need to ensure that you're able to get to that late game point.
Yeah, absolutely. And as flashy as Ragemore's gameplay was, it's not to doubt the rest of the Sunbreakers team. Giant Dog was playing extremely well. Koala, I mean, 9-2 speaks for itself, and Evan just really pumping out the numbers during these team fights, as you would expect at Merlin too. But we're gonna see how the Oathkeepers answers back, or if Sunbreakers are gonna be able to keep up this pressure and make a 2-0 sweep in game number 2. Don't go anywhere.
When we were on, I'd always thought we would make parachute, jumping out the plane. You had it all in front of you, nothing feels the same. It's crazy what love can do, even crazier when it's not coming back to you. You say you need space, so I gave you all the states. Every night a different place. Used to think we're getting close, and now we're drifting away. And all I can say is that I'm feeling wasted. I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone out, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I always thought we would make it. Now you're gone. I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone out, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I'd always thought we would make it. But now you're gone, baby, you're a ghost. I'm caught up in a landslide, mental on the low end. When I used to feel alive, now there's a hole in the city, can't feel shit. Where do I go? Cause I know you don't feel this. Can't catch a break for God's sakes. Feel like I'm waking up and I'm caught in the wake. Yeah, I know this is my funeral on parade. I did it to myself cause I always thought you would feel the same. And I know you don't. Drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone out, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. Let's hit the brakes. I'm pulling out the parachute, jumping out the plane. You had it all in front of you, nothing feels the same. It's crazy what love can do, even crazier when it's not coming back to you. You say you need space, so I gave you all the states. Every night a different place. Used to think we're getting close, and now we're drifting away. And all I can say is that I'm feeling wasted. I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone out, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I always thought we would make it. Now you're gone. I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone out, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I'd always parachute, jumping out the plane. You had it all in.
And welcome back to game number 2, Smite Draft League fans. We saw the Sunbreakers putting on an amazing performance against the Oathkeepers. How will the Oathkeepers answer back? We're going to find that out in game number 2. I'm Cosmic Warrior, joined by the one and only KingFsher. And, I'm excited for this one, KingFsher. How about you?
I definitely am too. I mean, I think we wrapped it up at the end of last game on the picks. Mans, we need to see something different from Oathkeepers. It was a pretty textbook game from the Sunbreakers, so there really needs to be a big answer back here. And for me, it starts in the draft difference. They didn't necessarily kind of have a majorly bad team comp. The other one was just better, and it's something that you can't have happen again.
You cannot. And, we see some similar bands coming in from game number 1. We see the Tiamat and Freya. Definitely some strong picks here. I mean, we went off in game number 1 about how strong Tiamat can be, and that stands true. Freya on the other side, I feel like the biggest difference, I think, draft wise that can be made is definitely the front line. It was a bit weird with the Shiva Hades. I didn't mind the Shiva so much, but the Hades was not doing quite as much as you want. What do you think?
Probably wasn't. I mean, if it's a different game and the Hades has a little bit more time to develop and the team as a whole isn't behind from the beginning, it can be a different story. But unfortunately, when your team suffers, so do you. Doesn't matter how close or how far you're playing from them. But I do think that a more traditional solo laner maybe doesn't struggle as much.
Certainly not. As we see the Achilles banned in the second position here immediately, not surprised to see that one at all. I can pretty confidently say that that is where I would want my bands to be focused on. Cannot have a repeat of game number 1 as far as Ragemore is concerned, because that was completely criminal what he was getting away with. Criminal and just so hard to really deal with. He just was running around so often. Furthermore, we see the El Kwong, same thing we saw in game number 1, super strong jungler. And yeah, so we see the Yu Huang again. What are your thoughts on that, Fisher?
Honestly, it's the same as last game. It's not necessarily a bad ban. Yu Huang isn't a bad mage. That being said, take the Merlin away. I think Merlin is in a much better spot than Yu Huang, but who knows? Maybe the teams know something we don't. Maybe Yu Huang is just a really big comfort pick. I yeah, I don't think there's much to really justify it. But at the end of the day, it's not a bad ban. There's just better.
I'm inclined to agree as we see Agni on the other side, finishing up the first 3 bands on either side. Now we're getting into the juicy part, the picks. What's going to be the first pick here? Will we see the Merlin? Will we see the Oleron again? I didn't love the Oleron in the first game. It was fine as some parts. Was even able to solo Koala in one of the team fights, and we do see the Merlin.
Would have loved to see that game 1, but at least they do recognize value. Take it game 2. And I think going back to the game 1 Oleron pick, in my mind, there's only really one magical ADC worth picking up right now, and that's Soul. Soul still does amazing because you don't have to build the rings on Soul to get a really good build. Even something like a Chronos, the build has gone downhill a little bit, maybe better suited to mid. So I like this pick. Merlin, top of the game right now. You really can't go wrong with a Merlin in the mid lane, and it's going to give the rest of your team a really strong foundation to build off. But on the other side, it's going to be the Ishtar again. Honestly, I would even run the Geb back. Their duo lane looked incredibly confident, and even late game, Geb hitting massive cataclysms and helping out with that stone shield.
It sure was just as unkillable as a Ragemar was. Anytime he got a Geb shield on, it was just all the more HP that they had to get through. Very difficult to deal with. As much as I was kind of saying that Geb isn't, the highest priority compared to some such as Maui, I still do believe it. He played it well. Was definitely frontlining extremely well. Typically, if Sunbreakers did have someone die, it was him, and that's the way you want it to be. You want your support dying, not your backline. So he played that very well. And yeah, Koala was something like 9-2, I believe, last game on the Ishtar. And as you called it, we see the Geb locked in, and they're running back the duo lane.
Super smart. I mean, not too much else to say about that. Ishtar Geb, two really big picks right now. I feel like Geb kind of gets overlooked a lot as support. I think it might have been Season 8, Season 9, where Geb just absolutely ruled competitive play for a few months. Never really saw massive nerfs either. Don't really understand the fall off, but at least one team is still valuing the Geb and the Hercules. I'd imagine this is going to solo lane, and I like this pick a lot more. What concerns me is the Hebo jungle. I thought Terminator's Thor last game was pretty good, not able to have too much of an impact, and I'm sure it'll be good on the Hebo again, but it's a really drastically different jungler, and not one I'm sure that they needed.
Definitely is different. That being said, at the end of the day, Hebo is Hebo, and I think it's going to be hard to go wrong with him, even into the Fenrir matchup. And I know, like, Fenrir is like the quintessential Hebo counter. I've played against plenty of Fenrirs as Hebo, and the damage you deal, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you can't knock him up out of the brutalize. You just 3-1 ult him, and he's just dead. And that's the end of the story. Hebo insanely strong right now. A permaban in every single ranked game I play. And that's for good reasons, because the damage he deals is so hard to deal with. It's so constant with such a low cooldown on the one. I think it's just a high priority pick here, and I think I could have seen it gone higher.
Definitely is. And now we look towards the second phase. The Rama and the Cernunnos bans, I really do like this from the Sunbreakers, because I think we identified last game. The Gunaholic Oleron, not necessarily bad, not a game changer at the same time. I wouldn't be worried about them going back to a mage ADC, and they can't go back to a mage ADC. I think if they do, it'd be a wild misstep with the Hebo Merlin. So definitely going to be forced to physical ADC. Love seeing these. You know what I would almost really like to see? Something like a Set or a Kleena ADC. I think the absolute damage combined with Hebo would go crazy. You have so much CC and aggression from the Hercules. It seems like it'd slot right in. But maybe with Ekakulkan you don't want to get too close. So I'd expect a traditional ADC, but I can see it going either way.
For sure, and I feel like that's something that this league has missed out on a little bit. Is just the power that an assassin ADC brings. Honestly, I was gonna say I wish I said it first, so that way I looked cool. Was that Chiron would be the pick I'm leaning for here, as we see the Rama band away, not able to pick that Cernunnos as well when we saw in the SPL play-in tournament. Chiron can deal damage. I mean, with the power of Crusher and these proccing items like Heartseeker, Transcendence still being a very, very good item. His base defense is incredibly strong. His 1v1 potential is there as well. Just an all around really solid pick.
Luckily, I don't think they're going to have to see too much of the base defense with this comp. I think a lot more well-rounded. I mean, the Hebo Jungle Merlin mid, a combination that'll be pretty hard to go wrong with late game. And even though it's not an assassin, the pure damage output is a lot stronger than most other ADCs, so should play similar. And then Neja to round it out. Is that going to be... I'd assume Neja solo. Yeah, it's on Rage more.
Does seem like that's going to be the final pick. Not when we see too much in these high-end competitive games, but we're going to find out exactly how these teams pilot their comps and who's going to walk away the victor of game number 2. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back very soon.
I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone now, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I'd always thought we would make it, but now you're gone. Baby, you're a ghost. I'm caught up in a landslide, mental on the low end. When I used to feel alive, now there's a hole in the city, can't feel shit. Where do I go? 'Cause I know you don't feel this. Can't catch a break, for God's sakes, feel parachute, jumping out the plane. You had it all in front of you, nothing feels the same. It's crazy what love can do, even crazier when it's not coming back to you. You say you need space, so I gave you all the states. Every night a different place. Used to think we're getting close, and now we're drifting away. And all I can say is that I'm feeling wasted. I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone now, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I always thought we would make it. Now you're gone.
And we're back. I hope you haven't missed us too much. I can understand if you did, because it's me, Cosmic Warrior, and KingFsher coming on this game number 2, taking it away with us. KingFsher, how we feeling?
Feeling really good, and I think especially on the side of the Oathkeepers, I like this draft a lot more. I think we already covered it in the P's and B's, but they should have a much easier time transitioning to that late game. I think that's kind of where they got lost last time. I mean, pre-10 minutes admittedly didn't do horrible, but after that, the enemy draft, just way too much to contend with. I think they have a lot more assets on their side now, and they're going to get to lane first. Essentially, game over. Duo lane's got a lead.
Certainly do. You know, I'm happy to see that they decided to go a little bit away from their a little bit unorthodox draft style and go for more traditional. Got a hunter and guardian in the dual lane. That's what I like to see. But you know, Koala and Cactus have definitely proved themselves on this Ishtar Geb combo, and I think it's gonna be interesting to see. Ooh, nice little cheeky silence by Sylvanus preventing Cactus from dashing off into its CC immunity.
Absolutely love seeing that one. And now across the map, it's more brawling in solo lane. I don't know what else you would expect, and I think we touched about it on the desk and as well in the break. Seeing the Naja solo, I think, is a much better move than the Fenrir. Fenrir is kind of in a weird spot in the solo lane, and especially missing Ragnarok for so long can have really bad impacts on the rest of your roles. It does so much wherever it goes. And now it's going to be iTerminatorr stepping up to the gold buff, not quite securing it. Could be in trouble, too.
Water cannon off the mark. Terminator falling very low. The damage from Brutalize was so insane. And, you know, despite what I said about the matchup, definitely hard to deal with early on. Terminator's definitely going to want to, you know, prioritize not necessarily trying to deal with a giant dog. Obviously, you're going to have to eventually, but perhaps just going for ganks on some of these side lanes without him, because he's just going to be jumping onto you. Brutalize coming through. He's surely dead, right? No, he's not. Barely off, and BakeddGoods, he dashes in. Oh, it's not quite off the mark, and oh, he's going to drop down himself. Evan picks up first blood. BakeddGoods a little overzealous there.
You've got to imagine that's just a little bit of missed ability placement from BakeddGoods. Certainly seem to be in range of the Fenrir. That being said, don't love giving that over to the Kukulkan, especially a god that it kind of struggles to poke out with the Tornado. It's an easy one to avoid, especially with the Merlin Blink. But that being said, getting an item first with that gold advantage or anything means this Merlin is taking minimum half his health bar if he steps too close to the wave.
Yeah, that Tornado can be very frustrating to deal with at times. If it gets it's on you, it's just gonna tick away your whole health bar, and then you're just sitting at half HP. You're either gonna have to center the tower, or you're forced to back away, which is not the position you really want to be in, especially with the how powerful mid lanes really have been in Season 10. You know, you want to get ahead, you want to start rotating as early as possible, and all of that stems from just being able to win your lane and just pressure, clear the wave, and be healthy enough to make those rotations.
You definitely like to make rotations. Now, Giant Dog is looking towards mid. BakeddGoods has beads up, might need him stunned out. BakeddGoods doesn't use the beads, but finds
Oh!
What a shot!
beautiful, beautiful shot by Evan when it seemed like BakeddGoods was escaping by the skin of his teeth. He finishes him off. He was able to avoid that brutalize. Didn't matter. Evan now 2-0, BakeddGoods 0-2. Not the position you want to be in if you're the Oathkeepers, but I'm sure Sunbreakers are very happy to have shut down this Merlin so early on.
Definitely would be if I was the Sunbreakers. Getting 2 kills onto the Merlin, always good. Now, furthermore than that, you're kind of delaying the stacks. As we can see, KoalaMang already has a Book of Thoth. It will do it a lot sooner, but somebody else's might not get their stacks. Terminator rotates over, finds a knock-up-on. KoalaMang should turn around and look for CACTUSARMS, but they're not.
Blades of Retribution stunned out Terminator. Terminator now low. Water Spout knocks up Cactus, but now it looks like Giant Dog lurking in the corner. Giant Dog with the ability that makes him a Giant Dog isn't going to be able to find much as the skirmish comes to a little bit of end with neither team walking away with a kill.
Unfortunate to see for both ends. Would have liked to have a kill there. Really would have liked to see the Oathkeepers kind of try to turn that one around onto the Geb. But still, you force out both ultimates and you get the relic from the Geb. Not quite able to grab the beads from Ishtar. But I'd still kind of consider that a successful gank when you look at their dual lane. They are going to have their utility a lot quicker. Maybe opens it up to another gank down the road, or even just securing that gold buff if you're on Sunbreakers. Just lets Ishtar play a little bit more aggressively for a couple waves.
Yeah, I think right now what Terminator needs to be looking at ultimately is realizing that Rage Moore is on a much different god than he was in game number 1. He's full damage right now. It's going to be very squishy. Obviously, he has a lot of iframes as far as the sash is concerned, and of course that ultimate, but they're very easy abilities to wait out, and once they're down, it's going to be very simple if Hercules is able to land a stun and just knock up and crushing wave him. It's going to do tons and tons of damage, and I just hope he's able to realize this and play through the strengths and weaknesses of his team and the enemies.
Would be nice to see for sure is now Merlin making sure they get all those Book of Thoth stacks, trying to keep up with the KoalaMang. And now we see KoalaMang building into the Tablet of Destinies. I don't really know if I love this. I think Tablet's still in a good spot, and it's definitely going to allow KoalaMang to do damage, but now the Hebo's taking a lot of damage from the Najah, down to 1 HP. Great stun from Hercules. Rage Moore does find the kill, though.
And just as I was saying, I think he should be ganking. Didn't listen to the part where I said you should wait out the Windfire wheels. Now Lieutenant Crunch is looking rough. It brutalized, doing so much damage. Oh, but the 3 nearly saved him. Not quite able to do such a thing as the brutalize. It'll last for quite a bit. It's going to do a lot of damage, and unfortunately for the Oathkeepers, in a lane you think that they would be winning, the tower's dropping at the 7-minute mark, and now Giant Dog with a lead. Not what you want a Najah, even in an off roll, to be on.
It definitely isn't. I mean, Najah does an absolute ton of damage, especially from ahead. I'd be really interested to see. There's kind of 2 trains of thought with Najah. There's a really traditional jungle build, and then one that relies more on crit. I think I'd like to see the traditional build here. Ishtar's already going to be able to use crit super well, especially with the side arrow strikes. Gonna do a ton of damage. Double stacking it doesn't feel great into what will surely be a spectral armor from both the Elephant and Hercules, or at least should be. So it's gonna be interesting to see what Najah elects to do, zoning off the minions here. Playing like an absolute solo laner, love to see it. Dharmic Pillars, not really sure why they're expended.
The slow and bit of damage onto him might have been able to focus a little bit more on a Rage Moore, shut him down, as he's in a very precarious position here. Walking up, proxying beyond the tier 2, and at the same time, Sunbreakers are on the Gold Fury. They take it down. Both ultimates from the junglers expended, and Sunbreakers get a very free Gold Fury, and Rage Moore's not punished at all from proxying behind the tier 2 in front of the Phoenix.
Unfortunate to say the least. Ooh, does land a Mesmerize onto Chiron, though. That did a few damage. So definitely now look to see Ishtar getting aggressive onto this wave. And as much as I did troll that exchange, I really would like to see this Ishtar get aggressive. It's pretty rare that you've got a level lead onto a Chiron in lane. Any chance you can use to exploit that would definitely be a good one. Finds a backflip. Chiron, I think, very smartly dashes away. Ishtar did not have the ultimate up. Certainly would have been a dead horse.
Certainly would have been. We see just Terminator on this pick, seemed very confident. I would have been very, very confident if this was on my team, just because I think Hebo is so strong, but he's just not quite able to do it. And I feel a little like I'm getting a little bit proven wrong here. Is Terminator's really not been able to deal with a giant dog on this Fenrir. I mean, it's in the name, a giant dog. He's gonna be comfortable on the Fenrir to say the least, and just one's magical, one's physical. You got different routes of itemizations. You tend to go the Jotuns on physical, and now Rage more sashing in, but immediately forced away. Windfire wheels out, and Spirit of the Nine Winds doesn't hit anybody, unfortunately. And a bit of a reality check for Ragemore. You're not the character that you were last time. You're gonna take damage if you're diving tower.
For sure, certainly is not what Ragemore was expecting with that one, I think. And I do love seeing the breastplate a regrowth. I think normally on Assassins, in the solo lane, we see a kind of full damage build, just like this Fenrir has, hitting for an absolute ton onto the Hercules, who is going to fall. Kill credit goes over to Ragemore. But I mean, back to the point, I think Assassin solos traditionally just kind of build straight damage still. They don't really go for hybrid, because of course in Season 10 there are no more hybrid items, but this one does pair pretty well with this kit, especially the attack speed buff it now has. I don't hate it from the Neja, but I would still build into more damaging items in the future.
I mean, we've seen the likes of Elion in the SPL playing tournaments. One of the best Naja players, building Bloodplate of regrowth even in the jungle. So I'm not too upset by that one. I think you can still deal tons of damage. It definitely enables you, because I mean, if you're full damage and you're just kind of taking too much damage, so you're really not able to deal with it. But if you have a little bit of defense on, and so you're able to survive a little bit longer, you're going to be doing more damage. So it's like sometimes best offense is the best, or good defense is the best offense in this case. So I'm not too upset by that one, and I'm likely imagining we're going to see. And in fact, I would bet my life savings that Hercules is going to build his own breastplate of regrowth, as that has felt very nice on Hercules part.
Hercules definitely pathing into that, especially since got the attack speed on the
Oh
self-save level,
no!
misses the dasho. I don't know if Neja gets out of this one, misses a sash, but Knockup missed as well, and there Water Cannon finally able to scoop up the kill. Gunaholic falls on the other side, Gold Fury not up yet, so not an option for the Sunbreakers. Overall, if I'm Oathkeepers, I like that trade a lot more than the enemy does.
Yeah, Ragemore has definitely been getting away with a little bit too much than he should be, but now Dharmic Pillars, unfortunately, hits Evan, and now doesn't look like he's going to be able to continue the chase onto BakedGoods. Good peel by the Therealsylvanus there. Definitely what you want to see, keeping your mid laner alive.
Yeah, for sure. And now Oathkeepers gonna have to group up on the left side here. Sunbreakers, again, are kind of looking towards a structure. Hard to imagine they're too committal with two members still missing. They're gonna start it up anyway. I wonder if this is more of a bait. They do have the Kukulkan ultimate, though. Best here on the board by a
Going
mile.
down fast. Ooh.
Oh, uses it too early, but Chiron none the wiser. Gold Fury gonna stay with Sunbreakers as they now grow to a 7,000 gold lead. That's a little wild.
That's actually insane with how early on we're 13 minutes in. Sunbreakers 7k gold lead. That is rather significant. And I think they're in a position where they can keep it going. We saw a shutdown recently onto Ragemore, who's building a little bit more even onto the defense side. So it's going to be a little bit tougher to kill, but I think come late game, if Terminator's able to pilot this Hebo correctly, as I feel like he's able to, then it's going to be a different game come late game with Sunbreakers. I mean, he just does so much damage. I like to build poly on him, and you just 3 auto someone, they're practically dead. And you're one being on a freaking like 3-second cooldown. You're just going to be pumping out the damage.
Absolutely will be, as now on the right side of the map, we see the Sunbreakers getting aggressive. They're looking towards Therealsylvanus, should be able to find a kill. Tornado damage taken, but instead they're going to let the elephant go. Dharmic Pillars finds no value.
Windfire Wheels seals Terminator's face. Seems like that might be the only one who falls on the side of the Oathkeepers, but now they're taking the opportunity to get this tier 2. It's not dropping very quickly, and again, on the opposite side, we see Gunaholic falling. That's a solo kill for Koala on the Ishtar.
Great to see indeed, and now Sunbreakers are able to get this tier 2 tower and left. I'd be interested to see if they go to the Fire Giant or if they try to do towers. I think Fire Giant's a safe call. You do have the Kukulkan ultimate, probably still the best secure on the board, although both mages on Oathkeepers have pretty decent tick damage. But no, the Pyromancer's going to be the call instead. Maybe a little bit wary to do the Fire Giant with all 5 members up.
Yeah, Spur of the Nine wins, great secure, but I think Crushing Wave is definitely the best secure for the Oathkeepers if it comes down to it for sure. Merlin, great objective burner, not quite great at securing it. I think that's also one of the strengths of the Hebo pick is you do have a big damaging ultimate that can secure these objectives. And looking at this duel lane, we see a 4-level lead from Koala and Gunaholic. This is just really not the position you want to be in. It doesn't seem like any lane is doing particularly well right now, and is probably why we're seeing, a 10,000 gold lead coming in barely at the 15-minute mark. Sunbreakers are in absolute control right now, and any team fight that seems like they're going to take, it's going to be in favor of the Sunbreakers.
Definitely will be, and I think now looking at the board, with the Sunbreakers backline having as heavy a lead as they do, they need to do something with it. The front line is relatively the same in terms of levels, but it's going to be a little bit harder for them to engage. Certainly not as tanky. We do see Neja going towards a tank route. Don't know if I love it, but also with the team ahead, it's certainly going to help against a backline. May have troubles in the late game, but for now, perfectly all right. That being said, I need to see the Sunbreakers team get a little bit more aggressive. I think they're doing a great job of it, but there's no reason to kind of wait around because Oathkeepers, it's not like last game. They do have a really good draft, and it's going to be one that catches up a lot quicker than I think the Sunbreakers expect.
Yeah, I agree. I mentioned already about how much damage Hebo's going to be doing in the late game once he gets, certain few items online. The Soul Gem can do tons of damage. But even Chiron, if you get the Crusher, Heartseeker online, you're going to be pumping up damage. It's going to be very hard for Sunbreakers. So it seems like they're on a tiny bit of a timer, but Lieutenant Crunch's life might be on the same timer as Windfire Wheels. Puts so much damage out. And Ragemore just completely healthy after that engage. And we see Dharmic Pillars forced out. Crushing Wave, finally Ragemore is threatened. Silence not quite able to do anything. Unfortunately, Water Spout doesn't hit him, and that is a chunky heal. Not only heal, but increasing his movement speed. Also gets the beads from BakeddGoods, and he's just healing everything back up. He's walking away from 3 members of the Oathkeepers. This is criminal.
Absolutely is, and now Sunbreakers, they're able to get the Neja out alive. Neja does get back to base. The Fire Giant still stands, and again, it's a 5v5. They did get a little bit of pressure. Would have liked to see them turn it around into something, but now they backed. They're going to be full health, and they're going to be prepared for these fights for sure. The only problem is now they're kind of opening the door for Oathkeepers to get a little bit more farm. You see the Chiron here. Only level 14, but with the build, still does a significant amount of damage. It's going to be close. I think Kukulkan is definitely what they're going to be relying on to kind of secure this fight and jumpstart the team fight immediately after.
One thing I just wanted to point out before we get into this fight that I think is going to break out, we see Therealsylvanus with a whopping 7 stacks on his Prophetic Cloak. And the crazy thing is that is almost double how many stacks CACTUSARM has. Oh, he just got one more. And Sunbreakers take the Fire Giant. The Boulder not quite able to finish it off. Not quite able to steal it away. No, Lieutenant Crunch with the back foot. Oh, Sylvanus dropped so low, so quickly. Centaurus not quite able to return enough damage. And now, again, Sunbreaker's just in a position to run it down. We've got one tier 2 tower left, one tier 1 tower left. And after that, the base of the Oathkeepers is going to be completely exposed. They're knocking on the door, and they're opening it up.
Opening it indeed, now tier 2 tower is going to fall. No runic bomb on the side of the Sunbreakers, so any siege on the Phoenix is going to be a complete siege. Now we see in the left lane, there's a member backing. I believe that's Terminator, indeed it is, all the way over there. Not wanting to split push without the minions. Now they're waiting on this Phoenix engage. I don't know what the engage is going to be for them. If they elect to wait for minions, it gets cleared pretty quick by the Merlin. I don't see any real benefit to waiting here other than hoping the Oathkeepers kind of overstep their bounds.
Yeah, if you're the Oathkeepers right now, you're waiting for Sunbreakers. They have to make the move here. You want to wait for them to come in. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with Lieutenant Crunch, who's dropping so low. No, the Windfire wheels! That was insane! Finishes him off. Just wait for them to walk into the Phoenix, man. You don't got to walk out there. Oh, this is not looking good for the Oathkeepers.
It isn't indeed. Now Sunbreakers, it's a 5v4. They're waiting again. Oathkeepers are backed off pretty far. I would honestly enter the Titan here. You still have Spirit of the Nine Winds from the Kukulkan, and if you can land any sort of CC, it should be game over, and indeed it should. Oh, Sylvanus hit for about half his HP. If I'm Sunbreakers, this is the go button. You force 2 back to base, but they're retreating.
And they realized that Phoenix Siege may be a little bit harder, but I mean, come on, that was still very, very clean by Sunbreakers. They lost no members, but they're just opting to go back, play it safe. The power match, so they're definitely in a position to do such. They're in complete control of this game. If they want the runic bomb, they can have it. If they want to go for the primal fury that's going to come up, then they can get it. It's their choice. They have complete control of the map.
They do. They absolutely do. So, I mean, and we do often talk about it's better safe than sorry. That being said, I don't really see them needing to be safe in this one. It kind of feels reminiscent of last game. You're just ahead in every aspect. It's a 16, nearly 17,000 gold lead at 21 minutes. In my mind, they don't need to wait for minions. They don't need to wait until the next Fire Giant comes up. They don't need to get Primal Fury. They can march down, maybe not straight into the Titan room, but certainly to a Phoenix, even both Phoenixes, and get them down in an instant. Playing a little bit safe, but at the same time making it even harder for Oathkeepers to come back. So not a bad strategy, just one that's going to take them a little bit longer to pull off.
Certainly not. I mean, just the point is that they're just so far ahead that even if they decide to do it, they're not really going to be punished, so to speak. They have plenty of time. They're ahead so much. They have the time to just chill out a little bit, catch their breath, and really position into a way that is really going to let them be their absolute maximum. But right now, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to see how the Sunbreakers close this one out, or if Oathbreakers are going to be able to come back from this one as we enter a pause. Please stay with us. We won't be gone for very long.
I could get drunk off the lights of the city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone now, that shit's broken. 2 a.m. and I'm lost in Brooklyn, missing home. I know you don't. When we were on, I'd always thought we would make it, but now you're gone. Baby, you're a ghost. I'm caught up in a landslide, mental on the low end. When I used to feel alive, now there's a hole in the city.
And we are back. I hope you didn't miss us because we still have a great game to finish out here. Sunbreakers, quite the lead. a 1-11 in favor of the Sunbreakers. Now going for the Fire Giant before they finish off their siege. They've been putting on an absolute clinic this game.
Clinic doesn't even begin to cover it, although maybe playing a little bit too safe at times. They're playing clean, and that's all that really matters now. The Sunbreakers do pick up the Fire Giant again. It's not enhanced Fire Giant, and it doesn't need to be. It is a almost 20,000 gold lead now in just about the same number of minutes. In my mind, this game is over within the next minute and a half, and that's being generous.
Most certainly. They're looking at these birds now, and we see Ragemore once again, not afraid to step up alone in the face of multiple enemies. Luckily, his team is not far behind him. And I think we're going to see something very similar to the way the Middle Phoenix dropped. Hopefully, Lieutenant Crunch has learned his lesson. Isn't he going to step up out of the Phoenix since he doesn't have to? And now, Ragemore, unfortunately, out the mark with the Windfire wheels, and it's not looking too good for him. But it doesn't matter. Lieutenant Crunch falls himself. Gunaholic beats forced out by a giant dog. Cataclysm hits 2, and the crushing wave is not enough to save Terminator's Ragemore. Does so much damage. Centaurus isn't able to return any sort of kill, and now they're looking at the Titan actually backing off, going to hit that Middle Phoenix to make it as easy for them as possible to finish off this Titan siege.
Should be an easy one indeed, as now the other Phoenix gonna fall. It's getting close to the minute and a half mark, and now Sunbreakers, for the first time, not into the Titan room. They're gonna get down the mid-Phoenix again. I don't see any more point in waiting, and neither do they as it begin to enter the room. Followed up by Ragemore, misses the stun. Push out, this should be the end. They need to get some damage onto the Titan, though. Where's the backline from Sunbreakers?
It doesn't matter as the Therealsylvanus falls quickly. Titan at half HP. Double knockup. Great by Oathkeepers, but it isn't enough as the Titan drops so very quickly. Sunbreakers take this set 2-0. You're going to hear about it on the desk. Don't go anywhere.
I could get drunk off the lights of a city. Late night phone calls just to say you miss me, but you don't. No, you don't. Drop my phone now.
And we're back. Me, Cosmic Warrior, with KingFsher, ready to take this one away from you. Sunbreakers, in a convincing fashion, take this set 2-0. What are your thoughts about this game specifically, Fisher?
I mean, the overall impression is that Sunbreakers just played a clean game of Smite, or clean games of Smite, rather. Both wins were really convincing, and we saw 2 different looks from them, 2 different looks from Oathkeepers as well, so it really, really speaks to the versatility of both of these teams. Although on the flip side for Oathkeepers, you don't get the win. Neither game admittedly looked great, but there were certainly some good moments from both, and if nothing else, the chemistry from the team looked very strong. They all showed up to objectives together. I thought they team fought pretty well too, but early fallbacks lead to early losses at the same time.
Certainly, and I think the MVP of the set is undeniably Ragemore. He was absolutely insane in game number 1 on the Achilles, completely unkillable, getting away with murder in the most unfavorable of conditions for himself, and even on an assassin in the solo lane, building a little bit of damage, but obviously still a lot of defense. And being okay, actually, him and CactusFed, they had 1 death, and that was more than the rest of their team combined. Just kidding, of course, but I mean, incredible plays from Ragemore, understanding his own limits and just how that he can impact the game as much as possible from the solo lane.
It was really an interesting set to see from Ragemore. 2 very different looking solos and 2 dominant looking solos. Really excited to see what they're going to be able to do moving forward. And I think the team as a whole, it was just a really sound win overall. There wasn't a single lane that looked behind. Maybe CacTUSARMS lacking a little bit on XP, but it's a support. It's what they do. They don't get as much XP, so definitely not something to worry about. And on the flip side, going forward, should absolutely be a team to contend with.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to see how the Sunbreakers continue on. They look completely dominant. I'm excited to see them play some other teams and how other teams face up into them. And Oathkeepers definitely have a lot to improve on in the VOD review and just overall. Definitely expect more from both of these teams, but that's all we've got for you right now. It's been Cosmic Warrior joined by KingFsher. We hope you've enjoyed. If you want to get in on the action, join the Discord, follow us on Twitter at Smite Draft, subscribe to the YouTube. Take care.